Hello, everybody. It's Sunday, and you know what time it is. It's time for the Expendable Show. And I'm your host, the Expendable, for those of you watching for the first time. Look, for those of you who don't know, I live in just outside of Atlanta, and it's cold out today, man. Like I'm not ready. It's like cold, windy. It's like a little rainy out. Like I wanted to go do stuff like all weekend. It's been like Halloween, like there's a party everywhere, but I just man, I'm not going outside. It's cold. And it's only I think the high today was like 50. So I'm kind of a baby because I've forgotten what it's like living in Ohio. So I don't like this cold. I might have to move to Miami now. I don't know. I might have to just pack it up and move to Miami or Key West. I'm about to get out on the Keys probably. Hey, Rachel. Welcome. But if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. This episode is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions. I could put the thing up, but I'm not going to today. So let's get into our statistics. The gas prices are holding steady. We're averaging $3.03 a gallon across the nation, which is pretty good. I'm waiting for the week when I can put up $2.90 something. Well, yeah, Rachel, you can have that cold, whatever's going on in Ohio, you can have it. I'm gonna send all this cold weather we got. It should still be in the 60s right now. I'm not ready for this. Like I woke up this morning to go to the gym. It was like 42 degrees. I was like, man, I ain't trying to do all that. Hello. I know that last name. Real well. Welcome to the show. So mortgage rates, we're at 5.990. That's on 30-year fixed with no FHA or nothing like that. So, I mean, we're below 6, but I want to see it go better. We were at 5.875 last week, so it's gone up just a hair. Trump's approval rating has gone down a little bit. We're at 44.6. And the Dow Jones is just nuts, man. Like 47,562.87. That's huge. Like we're getting close to 48,000. I can't even fathom that. Like when the year started and Trump did the tariffs and the stock market went down to like 37,000, it's risen 10,000 points on the Dow Jones since then. That's insane. It's completely insane. I can't even fathom that. So the Democrat Party's approval rating went down 0.5 point. So they're at 34.1. However, the congressional Democrats have now hit an all-time low. Their approval rating is 19%. So the American people are penalizing the Democrats in the polls for apparently they're being blamed for the shutdown, which I agree with that. I think when you look at the facts and some of the stuff they're trying to add to it, I don't agree with those things. There's a lot of weird stuff. Mike Johnson mapped it all out the other day when he was on TV. The extra, earmarks that are on there, like they haven't learned their lesson yet. I mean, stop attaching trash to our bills. It's that simple. Why can't we just have a bill that has just the solution to our problem on it? And that's it. None of this extra stupid stuff. Like the transgender opera in Ireland. Like we don't need stuff like that on there. That's just like they're dumb. Like do we really think that money's going to that? No, it's going to an NGO that's going to transfer it over to a shell company that's never going to go to the transgender opera. Like we're not stupid. We've been figuring this out. So for those of you that have never watched the show, and I get new people all the time now, it's kind of cool. But I'm going to cover some big main topics, and then I kind of save the key points towards the end, usually the Kentucky stuff and any other big news that comes in, which there's quite a bit this weekend. So as we talked about a week or two ago, there is I told everybody this Nigeria thing was going to turn into something, and here we are. It has turned into something. So Trump recently accused Nigeria of religious persecution and threatened sanctions and military actions over alleged Christian killings. President Donald Trump has made a series of provocative statements about Nigeria, accusing its government of allowing the mass slaughter of Christians and threatening both diplomatic and military consequence. So we're going to go into that. Trump, on October 31st, which was Halloween, Trump announced Nigeria would be designated under the International Religious Freedom Act for systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom. He's threatening to cut aid. He's warned that the U.S. would immediately halt all non-humanitarian aid to Nigeria if the government failed to act. Trump said he had instructed the Pentagon to prepare for possible action and threatened to send U.S. forces guns ablazing to wipe out the Islamic terrorists responsible for attacks on Christians. The move was backed by figures like Senator Ted Cruz and Representative Riley Moore, who cited Christian mass murder and urged Congress to act. Nigeria, they have responded to these comments, and their president, which is Bola Tinubu, you guys know how I am with words, I can't read. So Bola Tinubu, he rejected Trump's claim, stating that religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity, that Nigeria opposes religious persecution. And Nigeria emphasized its commitment to protecting all citizens, regardless of religion, and called on the U.S. claims wholesale misinformation. So, well, okay, we'll finish this up, and then I'll give you my 2 cents on this. Even Nicki Minaj, the great rapper, she publicly thanked President Trump for addressing Christian persecution, saying no group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. Some praised Trump's stance, citing thousands of Christians killed annually by groups like Boko Haram and Fulani militias. Nigeria's population is roughly split between Christian and Muslim. I don't think that's a big secret. I think pretty much everybody knows that there is a religious divide there. While Christians have been targeted, analysts note that many victims of extremist violence are also Muslim, especially in the north. The designation could lead to sanctions, but it does not automatically trigger them. It's a diplomatic tool that signals concern and opens the door for further action. Pete Hegseth, he's made some comments as well. The Secretary of War. I really like that title. I wish I could have a title like that, like Secretary of War, like TikTok creator of war. I would like YouTuber of war. Those are great. Those are great titles. So in response to Trump's accusing Nigeria of allowing the mass slaughter of Christians, Hegseth replied on X, formerly Twitter. He said, "Yes, sir. The killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must end immediately. The Department of War is preparing for action. Either the Nigerian government protects Christians or we will kill the Islamic terrorists who are committing the horrible atrocities." Hegseth, his statements came just hours after Trump designated Nigeria a country of particular concern, so they've been upgraded. And that's under the International Religious Freedoms Act. Trump warned that the U.S. could go into that now disgraced country guns ablazing if Nigeria failed to stop attacks on Christians. I think if I'm a leader of another country and Trump makes those statements, I'm going to take them extremely serious, because he seems to be about that life. When he's told Iran, "Hey, we're going to bomb the shit out of you if you don't stop." And then he did. And now we don't hear a peep out of Iran. Nothing. Poof. So Hegseth endorsed signals of full alignment with Trump's aggressive posture and readiness to escalate militarily. The Department of War, formerly the Department of Defense, is now publicly positioned for potential intervention in Nigeria. That's right, Rachel. FAFO. They're about to find out. Hegseth framing kill the Islamic terrorists suggests a targeted operation, though critics warn this could oversimplify Nigeria's complex religious and ethnic conflicts. His comments amplified Trump's narrative of Christian genocide, which has been echoed by other conservative figures like Representative Riley Moore and Senator Ted Cruz. So we're going to talk about that real quick. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it. I've been paying attention to this Nigeria situation for a while. Let's say, for instance, what's up, G bro? Let's say, for instance, let's pretend like it is misinformation that it's not Christian persecution. Well, let's talk about the 50,000 murdered Christians. Maybe it's not targeted towards Christians, but there's still 50,000 murdered Christians in Nigeria. You can take that as well, this could have been this, and this could have been that, and this could have been that. At the end of the day, when we're looking at the statistics, 50,000 Christians have been murdered in Nigeria. And just this year, there's over 7,000. So I think one way or the other, the Nigerian president, Tinubu, Bola Tinubu, needs to understand that 50,000 people dead, murdered, is too high of a number. That you may not call it, apples and oranges like you're trying to, but at the end of the day, you still have 50,000 murdered Christians. I don't know what the statistics are for these alleged murdered Muslims, but I do know what they are for the Nigerian Christians. So regardless of what the narrative is, you still have 50,000 murdered Christians. And Donald Trump is saying, President Tinubu, you need to do something about that, or we are going to do something about that for you. And that's where it's at. It's not about so much the religious side of it for me. Genocide's genocide. However, if you're going to try to justify 50,000 murdered Christians, it could be 50,000 murdered Hindus or 50,000 murdered Buddhists. And I'm still going to go, hey, you have 50,000 murdered whatevers. You need to do something about that. What is your plan of action? That's what I want to know. President Tinubu, what is your plan of action? Because all I'm hearing you say is, no, misinformation. No, you've got 50,000 dead Christians. What's your plan of action? So we'll see what happens. I don't think people are people like President Tinubu. It's just like watching liberals where they don't want to address the problem. They're just continually point the finger back at somebody, and the problem's still right behind them. It's not unresolved. So that's a problem. They need to do something about that. Now, this may have slipped under the radar, but I found this big giant long article, and I found it on Fox News, and I thought, man, why did this not get talked about everywhere? It was just basically just a written article. And it did get like a little bit of airtime on Fox News, but like this is kind of a big deal. So we're going to talk about it. This is about UFOs. So there was a big report that came out about UFOs. And so we're going to talk about that and break it down. So a popular UFO reporting app has been making waves after reportedly recording tens of thousands of mysterious underwater objects up and down the United States coastlines, raising eyebrows and leaving experts with more questions than answers regarding their origin. Enigma, that's what this company's called. They're a nonpartisan organization that boasts its largest queryable historical sighting database for global UFO sightings. has recorded roughly 30,000 sightings since its launch. That's just since 2022. 3 years. We're looking at 10,000 a year they're doing. So, however, users have tuned their attention away from the skies in the hunt for the proof that life may exist elsewhere. Since August, Enigma has documented more than 9,000 sightings of mysterious objects within 10 miles of U.S. shorelines or other major bodies of water. This makes me want to go swim in the ocean more. I feel like I want to accidentally kick a spaceship in the water. I would feel a lot better about that than kicking a shark. So I want to see one. I'm ready. They've been prepping us for this for a long time. I'm pretty well. Let's just get back into the article because I'm gonna get into all these conspiracy theories, and somebody's gonna show up and put me in a home. Probably my ex-wife's gonna watch this and go, "He needs to go into a home." So, unidentified submersible objects, USOs is what they're calling them, are defined as any object detected underwater that cannot be immediately identified or explained. Same thing they say with the UFOs or the UPOs or UPIs, whatever they call them now. What is really interesting to me is the reports that we receive about the United States underwater vessels detecting craft moving at exceptionally high speeds underwater. I'm not sure we can do that as our technology. This guy, his name was Kent Heckenlively. He wrote a book called Catastrophic Disclosure: Aliens, the Deep State, and the Truth. Whoa, did he link it all up? He told Fox News, now that's one of two things. That's something we don't understand, or that means our technology is picking up ghosts under the water. So this is getting weird. All of the 9,000 reported sightings since August 25th, 9,000 since August 25th. Approximately 500 occurred within 5 miles of the coastline. So if you want to see UFOs, go to Myrtle Beach or go to Tybee Island or go to any beach on the coastline and just sit there for days. You're going to see something probably. This increases your odds of seeing something. Additionally, over 150 objects were reportedly seen either hovering above or entering and emerging from bodies of water. 2 states with the highest coastal populations are California and Florida. I hear Jacksonville is a hot spot. Like all up that Florida coastline I watch TikTok religiously, obviously, and I see the videos all over the place. The 2 states with Florida and Georgia. So according to it, then they have the highest numbers according to Enigma's website. California accounts for 389 reported sightings, with the Sunshine State in second with 306. That's a lot. So those states, maybe it's Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis they secretly have their own UFO programs. And since they're at beefing with each other, they're trying to out-tech each other. We're going to have a UFO war between California and Florida. I see it happening. That's what's going to happen. So there you go. There's my QAnon report for the day. Florida and California are going to have a UFO war. The data also shows several clusters of activity centered around specific coastal points throughout the country, raising eyebrows for both experts and government officials who fear the objects could pose a risk to national security. It seems like there are 5 or 6 areas where there's real high UFO activity around water. It would make a great deal of sense, and I think the problem that the regular person is facing is that they're saying to themselves, okay, if these things are real, how could they come to Earth and hide? And the ocean seems like a great place to hide. I think like Ancient Aliens has already done a great job of documenting underwater phenomenon like this. The sentiment is echoed by retired Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who previously argued that video footage released by the Pentagon shows technology that jeopardizes U.S. maritime security, which is already weakened by our relative ignorance about the global ocean. Then he went on to say the fact that unidentified objects with unexplainable characteristics are entering the U.S. water space and the Department of War is not raising a giant red flag is a sign that the government is not sharing all it knows about all domain anomalous phenomenon. I would agree. So we're going to break it down here in a minute. The 2019 video depicts an unidentified object buzzing past the Navy's USS Omaha ship before plunging into the Pacific Ocean without a trace. I think everybody's pretty much seen that video now. I've seen it 1,000 times. Pilots, credible observers, and calibrated military instrumentation have recorded objects accelerating at rates across the air-sea interface in ways not possible for anything made by humans. Of the various witness accounts compiled by Enigma, one of the most compelling shows two mysterious underwater objects lighting up while underwater. I think we've all heard about those too. However, years of public skepticism have led the apps such as Enigma crowdsourcing data regarding UFOs in what Heckin Lively believes is a positive step towards transparency between the United States government and citizens looking for answers. I'm skeptical. Heckin Lively said, I'm skeptical of alien stuff, but I'm convinced that the government is lying to us. So I'm not skeptical of alien stuff. I believe it's there. I know it's there. However, here's the thing. What they're doing with this Enigma is they're quantifying data to back up the theory that they are there, that there is something there. They're tracking it. Like, it's very, very intense. I went on their website and it's unbelievable. Like they know where they have it all broke down. Where's the highest probability? If you go stand here, this is where you'll see it. Like, go check out Enigma's website. It's pretty cool. And these guys are doing a good thing. And it's interesting. I'm kind of like a UFO nerd. So like, I like stuff like that. Like, it's pretty cool. So I do think that the government heavily lies to us. I think we pretty much know that when they declassified a bunch of UFO stuff. We're pretty much the only country that doesn't openly admit that there's aliens. I mean, every other country's already kind of come out of the shell and admitted it. So that's my UFO spiel for the day. Maybe this Atlas thing that's up in the sky that they're saying lights up like a spaceship too. I don't know. It's hard to tell when you see videos now because of the AI and all that's out there is so good. Like, I don't know what's real anymore. We're all going to go insane because we're not going to know what reality is after a while with the AI systems. So next, President Trump met with Xi Jinping, and we're going to talk about what they learned. So President Trump and Xi Jinping concluded their October 30 summit in Busan with a temporary trade truce and tariff reductions and renewed cooperation on fentanyl, rare earths, and agricultural exports. No formal deal's been made, but this is what they're making some progress, and we'll take it. So Trump and Xi agreed to a 1-year trade truce, ceasing tensions that had rattled global markets. No comprehensive agreements was signed, but both sides claimed progress and pledged continued negotiations. Now, real quick before we move on with this, I'm going to point out a key fact here. When President Trump put the tariffs on China, every liberal in America went absolutely batshit crazy. It's like, our friend, they're our trade ally. What are we ever going to do? Trump made this deal, and the first thing I heard on X after that deal was, Trump bends the knee to Xi Jinping. I'm like, were you guys just crying because we smacked them with the tariffs, and now you're crying because Trump made a deal with China? Like, can you guys make up your mind, or is it always going to be Trump, orange man, bad no matter what? Well, guess what? You vote blue no matter who. I vote red even if they're dead. How you like that? That's how we're doing it now. Not voting blue nothing. We're going to start a real gang war around here. Trump announced a reduction in tariffs on Chinese goods from 57% to 47%. So bending the knee was only a 10% reduction in some markets. Having a 20% fentanyl-related tariff in exchange for China's promise to curb fentanyl precursor exports. So I'm waiting to see what that's going to look like. Of course, they haven't like formally agreed to a long-term thing here. So I'm waiting to see how that's exactly going to look. China agreed to pause new export restrictions on rare earth elements for 1 year, a major concession amid U.S. concerns over tech supply chains. It is the biggest fight in the world right now, tech supply chains. Get ready. Natural resources, mineral resources is the hottest market. It's hotter than gold, silver, oil put together. What's underneath the ground in minerals is the hottest commodity on the planet right now. Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs just got beat by the Bills. I don't like Patrick Mahomes. So let's move on. So China pledged to resume large-scale purchase of U.S. soybeans, sorghum, and farm products, reportedly up to 25 million metric tons of soybeans annually. There you go. The agriculture is going to start booming again. This move was seen as a win for Trump's agriculture base and signal of goodwill. She agreed to intensify efforts to curb fentanyl trafficking, a key U.S. demand. Trump called China's commitment strong action and cited it as a reason for reducing related tariffs. So that sounds like that was the key. Xi Jinping understood the assignment and decided to kind of move a little bit on that, which is good. We needed that to happen. Too many Americans are dying because of Chinese fentanyl. Facts. The leaders did not discuss Taiwan, avoiding a potential flashpoint. They briefly touched on Ukraine, with Trump suggesting joint efforts to end the war. China and the U.S. also agreed to explore cooperation on AI, anti-money laundering, telecom fraud, and infectious disease response. True story. That's right, Rachel. That's right. Drink Monster. It's good for you. It makes you turn up all the time. Trump rated the meeting a 12 out of 10, which is over excellent. And he called Xi a great leader in announcing plans to visit China in April, with Xi expected to visit the U.S. afterwards. So I'm gonna explain something. So you know how in MMA, for those of you who watch MMA, before fighters fight, usually they hate each other. They talk lots of shit to each other. They even talk about how their baby moms are ugly or they're hoes or whatever. But then they go in and they fight, and then they earn each other's respect, and then usually they say nice things about each other after the fight. This is exactly how this has happened. So Trump talks lots of shit about China. China talks lots of shit about Trump. They went into the room, they fought it out, and now they're like, hey, buddy. Yeah, hey, buddy. It's not going to last, though. Obviously, China likes to make things complicated, and you can't trust them. So despite the upbeat tone, analysts noted that many core issues remain unresolved, and the agreement is more of a pause than a breakthrough, which is correct. So I explained this on my TikTok this morning, but this morning when I got up, I got a phone call from the Republic in India, and the producer that is my contact there, he got a hold of me and he said, hey, can you no, turn up. We got turned down for what? That's my motto, turn down for what? We're going to turn up all the time. But anyway, I was talking to the producer and he said, hey, we're doing a segment that's not live, but we're going to ask you some questions and we're going to insert it in this like segment series that we're doing. I said, okay, what's it about? He said, it's about Zoran Mamdani. I said, okay, yeah, I know all kinds of stuff about him. I'm pretty well versed on what he's trying to do to destroy New York. And so it got me thinking, and I was like, what does Andy Beshear think about Zoran Mamdani? Mamdani. I'm never going to say that right. So I looked into it, and I was kind of surprised. I thought Beshear would have been like, oh, he's my best friend. But it's a little different. So Andy Beshear has not publicly endorsed Zoran Mamdani. In fact, his comments suggest a nuanced distance from Mamdani's political style, even as he acknowledged certain shared voter appeal. Beshear, he's Kentucky's Democrat governor, for those of you who live in Iraq. He's been cited in recent media as a rising moderate voice within the party, especially a potential 2028 presidential contender. In interviews and reports, he's emphasized pocketbook issues. Woo! Like I said, turn down for what? I'm going to turn up. Excuse me. So he basically, Andy Beshear he's a contender. They're starting to build him up. Now, I found out some really key things about him today that I had not found before. So we're going to get to that. That's kind of telling that the people in Kentucky are going to be like, Hey, what's up, squirrel? It's probably cold back home, huh? Yeah, I'm about to send the cold up that's down here up to you. Of course, G-Bro's probably colder. He's in South Bend, so that's probably even colder. A little bit. So he's a contender. He's emphasized pocketbook issues. He had a pragmatic approach to governance, contrasting with more progressive platforms focused on identity, climate, and cultural concerns. Now, we all know what Andy Beshear did to the coal industry in Eastern Kentucky. He destroyed it. Him and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they destroyed the coal industry with the Green New Deal. It's made Eastern Kentucky more poverty-stricken than what it was before. So that should be a key red flag, and I think most people in Eastern Kentucky do understand that he's going to be bad for their future in their part of Kentucky. Cultural concerns, he's going to try to push for DEI stuff again, just like every other progressive. Big on the identity politics, blah blah blah. Same Democrat playbook that Kamala lost with. He's going to try to resurrect it and say, well, look at me. I'm Andy Beshear. I'm a nice guy. But nobody's going to buy into that. Andy Beshear, at the end of the day, is a thief. He steals so much money, moves so much money around, gives more handouts and more pats on the back to his buddies than any politician I've ever seen. While Beshear has mentioned Mamdani in public discussions, most notably in a Sirius XM interview on the Bill Maher show, he framed Mamdani and Donald Trump as examples of candidates who connect with voters by addressing everyday needs. He's right. That's a correct statement. Trump resonates with the voter base. Mamdani has done the same thing with the younger progressive voter base. The rest of the people, I don't know what their deal is. If I was anybody else, I would never vote for him, but that's me. But apparently New York wants to be a socialist city. They can have it. So he is a Democratic socialist. And he was a New York State Assemblyman. He's currently the Democratic nominee for the city of New York mayor. He received endorsements from progressive leaders like Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and more recently from Vice President Kamala Harris. Centrist Democrats, including Beshear, have not publicly backed him. reflecting broader tensions within the party over ideological direction. So I think what he's doing is Andy Beshear knows that Zoran is going to be bringing a really, really radical plan to New York. And if he comes out and says, I support him, and New York City falls apart, it's going to look bad on every single politician that endorses him. So he's just going to say, I'm going to take my hands off of it just to be safe. So I think that's what's happening. Whereas the only real people that are supporting him are the super far lefties like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the Squad, and Kamala Harris. So it made me think even more, like, how can I prove this? How can I prove if Andy Beshear really supports the radical left socialist movement or not? Well, you look at the money. So what's the money say? Andy Beshear receives a lot of donations from a PAC called the Welcome PAC. And the Deciding to Win report states this centrist group published a widely circulated analyst in October 2025 ranking Beshear as the top performing Democrat in recent elections. So even though he's sitting in primary polls at like 4%, which puts him in seventh place, they've done the math. They know that Andy Beshear is a player, that he's going to be a big player in the election in 2028. He outperformed expectations by 22.1%. That's huge. Far ahead of other potential candidates like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who is only at 13.8%, and Gavin Newsom, who's actually at negative 9.6%. So out of the major candidates running for president that potentially could be running for president in 2028, Andy Beshear's number one. So we'll see how it goes later on down the line. This is why, those of you in Kentucky, why I chose Kentucky, because I know what they're trying to do with Andy Beshear. He's going to be a front runner. Major donors Welcome PAC is backed by influential liberal-leaning donors that include James Murdoch. Who is James Murdoch, you might ask? The son of Rupert Murdoch, which is the former owner of Fox News. So when you watch Fox News and you go, wow, they seem to be talking about Andy Beshear a lot more lately, and I have noticed it. There's why. Because Fox News is donating to Andy Beshear. Fox News ownership is. Then also Reid Hoffman. Who's Reid Hoffman, you might ask? Well, he is the founder of LinkedIn. Yes, holy buckets, Batman. Sometimes when you just find out stuff. Also, an heir to the Walmart fortune. These donors are frustrated with progressive underperformance. So the Democrat money is starting to see the underperformance, and they're altering their money to the more moderate, safe candidate, Andy Beshear. It's going to be a Beshear Shapiro ticket. Watch. And they're looking for candidates who connect with working class voters on economic issues. Beshear and Shapiro. Gavin Newsom, too far gone. Kamala Harris, too far gone. Bernie Sanders, AOC, they don't understand the working class. They say they do. Just because you get in front of people and say, I understand the working class, it doesn't mean you understand the working class. You're just a rich dude that's feeding off of the ignorance of young voters. That's what you are, Bernie. Anyway, I just went off on a tangent. Did you like my Bernie Sanders impersonation? You got to do lots of head shaking and just we're going to do this. It almost matches my Richard Nixon impersonation. I should probably have my own comedy show. Just saying. So media platforms. So Beshear has become a regular on MSNBC, NPR, Late Night with Seth Meyers, and Bill Maher's HBO show. You see what's happening. They're putting him on TV a lot. They're getting America to like him. These appearances reflect growing interest from mainstream liberal media, especially those skeptical of progressive orthodoxy. The Democratic Governors Association, Beshear is set to lead the DGA through the 2026 midterms, positioning him as a national figure with executive experience and bipartisan appeal. That's only because Kentucky has a uniparty. Everybody in Kentucky knows that. It's all the same turds that steal from the same groups of people and line their pockets full of special interest money. It's a uniparty. Kentucky has the most uniparty candidates of any state I've ever seen. They're not really Republican. Their politicians aren't. Their people are, but their politicians are not. They're Democrats that say they're Republicans so they can get the votes. That's how it works. Facts. Go look it up. Jim Clyburn, the South Carolina kingmaker, has had direct contact with Beshear. Boom. And you know what? I'm glad. Okay, so tailored to win. I love that. Tailored to win. I like winners. Anyway, he said, he or she, you could be a woman, I guess. Could be a man. I'm not sure. Men and women both win. Unless you're married to me, then the woman always wins somehow. Wait until they can prove that Shapiro was involved in Trump's attempted assassinations. Facts. It's a she, see? If you're a woman, you jump into my life, you're going to automatically win all the time. That's what happens. I agree with you, though. I think that's going to come out eventually. I think as we get closer to 2028 and Kash Patel starts to wrap these cases up, and I'm going to mention that here in a little bit because there's lots of stuff going on. But then we also have to remember that Shapiro, before the attempted assassination of Trump, is also involved in another murder situation. And I'm not going to, I might look into those and get all the details together for those. And I'm going to throw that out there probably here in a few weeks. Because I think it's significant to note that Shapiro's has some direct involvement in 2 major murders in Pennsylvania. And like, nobody seems to be like really giving a shit about it. But I'm going to start complaining about it. Because that's what I do on my show. I just complain. But thank you for bringing that up. That's great information. But then I forgot where I was at. So Jim Clyburn, he's on board with Beshear, and he's the Democrat kingmaker. So that tells you if Clyburn's with Beshear, that's who they're going to roll with. They say Beshear has electability in red states. That is a complete farce. I'm telling you that right now. Andy Beshear winning in Kentucky this last time was because the candidate, well, the first time, I believe, the candidate screwed himself. He started attacking the teachers' unions, and that cost him the race. Andy Beshear barely won both races. So his electability is only because the Kentucky keeps throwing up these morons to be governor of Kentucky. As far as on the Republican side, which I've been asked probably 1,000 times to run for governor of Kentucky, ironically. Weird. So there's a lot to digest with that, but just pay attention to how they start to position Andy Beshear. He's going to be their golden boy because he looks the part. He has all these perks going for him. He's got this facade that I can work with both sides. But in fact, he is the leading oppressor of Eastern Kentucky. He makes sure that KSP doesn't do anything. He makes sure that the attorney general there doesn't look into nothing. Everybody just keep brushing the crime under the rug. I don't want to look bad. But we're not going to let that happen in Kentucky. We're going to keep exposing it all. Yeah, he dressed up like Mr. Rogers for Halloween. Like that is Andy Beshear. He is a Mr. Rogers for sure. Hello, neighbor. Well, here's Mr. McFeely. He looks like a Mr. I mean, he looks more like a Mr. McFeely than he does a Mr. Rogers. So Andy Beshear, pay attention. So the last thing we're going to get into, I'm going to cover the murder trial that's going on right now of Shannon Gilday. It's happening in Richmond. So Shannon Gilday's murder trial is scheduled to begin May 1st of 2026. So there was this just happened this week. They extended it out to next year, and it's making people mad. So it took place in Madison County, and it's a death penalty case. So here's what happened. Shannon Gilday is accused of murdering Jordan Morgan. She's a 32-year-old daughter of former Kentucky lawmaker Wesley Morgan. During a home invasion that happened February 22nd of 2022. So this trial is not going to get done. It's not going to get started until 4 years later. That's a long time to start a trial. So Gilday allegedly broke into the Morgans' Richmond mansion armed with an AR-15 and fatally shot Jordan while she slept and exchanged gunfire with others in the home, injuring Wesley Morgan. He faces multiple charges, including murder, burglary, criminal mischief, assault, and attempted murder. In October 2025, Judge Cole Adam Meyer ruled that the death penalty remains an option, rejecting the defense's motion to exclude it. The judge cited that Gilday did not have a documented history of serious mental illness at the time of the crime, despite the defense's claims of schizophrenic disorder. So Gilday reportedly believed that the Morgans' home had an underground bunker, which it did, and that was going to protect him and his loved ones from nuclear war, which he feared due to the global tensions. He allegedly researched the family's routines and the bunker layout before the attack. Jordan Morgan's family and friends have been vocal in court advocating for justice and supporting the death penalty option. Mike and Nicole, a close friend, emphasized the emotional toll and the family's determination to see the case through 4 years of delays. So I wanted to look in, because I don't always take everything at face value. So I always want to look into stuff a little bit further because I don't trust people. So the Kentucky House of Representatives, I looked into Wesley Morgan to see if maybe there's something there. So he was elected in 2016. Yeah, and that's what the former Representative Morgan is complaining about, that Rachel, that hey, where's the speedy trial? Like, this needs concluded. He wants justice done. His daughter's been murdered. So what happened was Wesley was elected in 2016 to represent District 81, defeating Democrat Rita Smart. She wasn't very smart, apparently, by just 76 votes. He is a Republican candidate. His committee assignments, he served on the Judiciary, Economic Development, and Workforce Investment, Elections, and Intergovernmental Affairs, Licensing, and Occupations committees. So he's on he was an active guy in government. So his legislative proposals, he introduced bills that drew criticism, including immunity for drivers who hit protesters blocking roads. I support that. I like this guy already. Immunity for drivers who hit protesters blocking roads. If you don't want to get hit, get the hell up off the road. He also proposed allowing teachers to carry firearms in schools. I don't know about that one. There's a lot of teachers I would not like to see with a firearm. He also proposed measures that would benefit the liquor industry, where he had personal business interests. You're in Kentucky. You're in the bourbon capital of the world. You're going to have liquor interest. So Morgan did clash with people in his party. So he clashed with Republican leadership, notably calling the resignation of House Speaker Jeff Hoover over a sexual harassment settlement. Hoover resigned as speaker but retained his seat. So he was standing up for the right thing. Morgan lost the 2018 Republican primary to Deanna Frazier and endorsed the Democrat in the general election. He said, "Are you going to beat me? I'm going to endorse your opponent in the Democrat election." So then he went in 2020 and ran in the Republican primary against Kentucky God, Mitch McConnell, placing second with 6.2% of the vote. His campaign rhetoric included denouncing McConnell as a deep state traitor and praising QAnon patriots. So this guy's a MAGA guy, and he went after Mitch McConnell. That didn't bode well for him. But I'm glad he did. This guy seems like the type of guy that the Expendable Show needs on his team when going after these clowns in Kentucky that are trying to terrorize the people. I like him. And I do have his phone number. I'm about to reach out to him probably this week. He built a fortified mansion in Richmond, Kentucky, complete with a bunker. Look, we're gonna look at it here in a second. But he has a fears of societal collapse under President Obama. That's why he built this big compound. So in a way, he kind of had the same ideology that the shooter had. They feared craziness. So his daughter, Jordan Morgan, was tragically murdered in that home in 2022, a case that has drawn national attention. So we are going to pull up the old news report of that. So watch it.
It's been said no parent should ever face this.
To lose a child is the worst hurt that you can ever experience in your lifetime.
Wesley Morgan's daughter Jordan died while sleeping in his mansion.
Shot her 11
See, that mansion is huge.
Shannon Gilday was arrested. Police say he shot his way into the home. His attorney tried to enter a guilty but mentally ill defense within months.
And he's admitted that he came there to kill all four of us if necessary.
But instead of a quick trial, the case dragged on. A trial will take place in May, more than 4 years after the crime.
The Constitution calls for a speedy trial. So obviously we're in violation of the Constitution right off the bat because this is not a speedy trial.
Love this guy.
Wesley Morgan tells me that he believes that Shannon Gilday's actions were careful and calculated. And he also says he does not believe that the morning of the shooting was the first time that Gilday came to his home. A week before the shooting, Morgan says there's evidence Gilday paid his house a visit.
Well, come to find out, he was on the other side of the house, on her side, where he watched her through the window.
He says it goes to show persistent planning on Gilday's part and not the act of a mentally unstable person, which has been the basis of Gilday's defense.
He does need a fair trial, but a fair trial does not mean that it becomes unfair to the victims either.
Morgan says this case shows the need for new laws preventing delays like this. In Madison County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
So there's the news about him. I just wanted to kind of show you how frustrated that Wesley Morgan is with the system. And some things that people don't know, Gilday does have a military background. So he was kind of tactical about this, which makes it even more scary. This guy went through and he built a compound that wasn't really worth anything at the end of the day. It didn't save anybody. When you really kind of put it all together, all that money didn't really amount to a whole lot, especially when you have somebody tactical. So that kind of makes me go, why would somebody so tactical just do that? Could he have been maybe paid to do that? I don't know. He doesn't look very crazy to me. He looks very, when you watch him walk into the courtroom, he looks very coherent. I don't know. I feel like there's more to the story, and I can't wait to reach out to him to find out. Hopefully he'll talk to me, and we'll get maybe a little bit more backstory on that and probably do some more investigating. I would love to turn that leaf over. But that is it for this week. I will be back on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have something cool to talk about. I'm sure we will. And everybody be safe out there. I'm out. Don't eat a lot of candy. I'm out. Peace.